Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another DC comic review, and in this DC comic review I'll be reviewing both of the Batman titles, the Marie Tamaki one and the Joshua Williamson. So I'll move on to first things first, which will be the Marie Tamaki Detective Comics Batman. So, as we start off with the Marie Tamaki Batman, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside the story? As you can see there, we do happen to have the character of Huntress there, to which she does make an appearance. But for this cover, I really didn't feel that it worked to the best to what both story creator and artist were looking for, to which I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I'll now move into the internal art. I will not be covering the backstory for this, though I have heard the backstory has actually improved a bit more by some people, but I have been enjoying it for what it is. So let's make a start at looking at the beginning, middle and the end, as well as some of the things that are happening inside of the story. Alright, this is some of the art around the beginning of the story. Actually, if it's something else that I'd sort of like to add that I think this story is missing, I'll get to it when I start to cover the story racing, is that with this working in regards to a Arkham Asylum Tower, some of the art around the middle, and last but not least, art towards the end. Now, I quite enjoyed the internal art, to which I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time for me to jump to the story. First things first, did we get any references to any of the previous issues? No, the consistency of that has really dropped, and dropped big time, and yes, it's going to affect the story rating. Moving into the area of time, we understand that this takes place on day 24. Of course, the location is last but not least the Arkham Tower. Now, if it's something I want to bring up with Arkham Tower, now that I can start to address that, is that one thing that this Arkham Tower storyline is missing. Why aren't the levels of the tower being addressed? Such as level 1 to, goodness knows how many rooms are in the Arkham Tower Asylum. Say maybe 100, maybe 100 plus, maybe close to 1,000. I feel like it's missing this. Like, if you want to give the audience a bit of a better feel of this being like a proper Arkham Tower feeling, it is missing the levels, even though we do get to see it in regards to the artwork. Like, we do get to see that there are many levels to this particular tower, but we never actually get to see what levels certain villains of Gotham City are actually on. And that's why I wanted to bring up this, because this is the only small thing that I dislike about this. It's taken me a little bit of a while to think about, or think through it, through the series, and this is the only thing that's missing. Sure, we get to see the officers, of, say, the doctors and whatever else. Like, I'd imagine in Arkham Tower, they'd probably have, 20 plus doctors working in there, plus whatever else, including staff. If anything, being in the Arkham Tower, they'd probably be able to have their own families in there too. Alright, moving into last but not least, the cast of characters. Batwoman, Oracle, Nakano, Nightwing, Nero, Huntress, Freeze, Psycho Pirate, and last but not least, Scarecrow. For the overall story rating, I decided to give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's just that small thing that I want to criticize about, but that's about all. I'm now going to move on to the next comic that I'll be reviewing, which is Batman 121. So now we are back again to cover Batman issue 121, and jumping into the first things first, in relation to the covers and their rating. Do these covers in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? Sure enough they do, to which I give the first cover on the left hand side a 7.5 out of 10, but the one on the right hand side I give an 8 out of 10 because I actually like that cover more so than the regular. I'll now move into the internal art. I will not be covering the backstory in this, even though the backstory is pretty good and worth checking out. And we'll get started now. Now this is some of the art around the beginning, to which we have Lex Luthor along with Batman against his Batman Incorporated. And of course we've got Detective Kaya here, who has made a return, which is really nice. I do like the character. They haven't been too intrusive, but they do actually show interest in what's happening in the story. As we jump towards the middle of the story, we have a situation to which Batman is getting ready to confront Abyss again, but this time he is using light to shed onto his darkness. And last but not least, towards the end, which Batman returns to Gotham City. And to which we learn that Prometheus is also working with Deathstroke. For the internal art of this, I gave it 8 out of 10, not 7.5. Now it's time to jump into the story. Starting off with first things first, references. We got a reference to Detective Comics Batman of what's happening in the previous comic run in relation to that with Tamaki, and also the Batman Annual. The time we got in relation to this story, we had then and now. It would be nice if some of those tropes would end up stopping, such as then and now. They really need to get a better handle on it. The location we got in the story was Metropolis, but we did seem to lose out on the location to which Batman was in the present, because it certainly wasn't in Metropolis. It did lose a little bit of consistency in that, and to which it does actually lose some points. The cast of characters consisting of Lex Luthor, Abyss, Batman, Batman Incorporated crew, Detective Kaya, Oracle, Prometheus, Deathstroke, and last but not least, Ghostmaker, to which this story received a 7.5 out of 10. Well, until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.